Hello everyone and welcome to the fifth part of the Joseph Masterclass. So, as I mentioned before, today's topic will be about traits and which one the best are to use with Joseph in which situations. So we will basically talk over all of the traits displayed here and talk about when you might be able to use this, when you will get out the most of them, and which situation you should change to which. So first trait obviously is listen. This is the first thing you unlock in game when you just join. This is the first hunter trait you can use. And if you've been following with my channel for a while now, you might remember a video where I actually tried using Listen in not high tier, but like mid tier against mid tier survivors. I will just drop the link at the right corner and you can watch that video if you haven't already. It did work pretty well in that video, but you guys in the comments pointed it out that it doesn't really work like that all the time. I'm still not sure because I haven't really used Listen after that video. That was just like a challenge type of thing, but I was really surprised how well it worked and how it actually helped me. Of course, it was in red church, so technically like a smaller map, which I believe could be the case why it worked out really well. But I would recommend watching that video and deciding for yourself if you want to try this out, because on smaller maps against teams who are like, not really stunners, but like basically normal characters, like who'd kite normally, like for example in Bomber, not many skills against the hunter, or like types characters like these, or more decoders maybe in a match, then I would say maybe you could give it a try after watching that video. But yeah, listen, basically you hold it down and it gives you the location of the survivors if they move or don't stop the decoding. Basically you force them to stop the decoding if they don't want to be spotted. Some players don't really care, so they just keep decoding regardless, which can be annoying if maybe like they are on the other side of the map from you and you don't have teleport, so it's basically like a useless thing. Of course, there is the reason why this is like a first skill. It's like a simple one. It's more for starter players, but I think it could be fun to experiment with this, or maybe if you just want to have some fun in quick matches. I think it's a little surprise, or like, if you got bored of the game, you can just surprise yourself with this and try it out for fun, if nothing more. Next one is actually a trait that might be used in higher tiers also, which can be surprising because it's the second trait, so it's still like low on the trait list. Abnormal is basically, if you didn't know, it makes the hunter able to walk up to a cipher machine of their choice and remove the progress, a part of the progress. As you can read it at the side, the hunters can take back 60% of a cipher's progress. But of course, this depends on how well decoded the cipher is. So, for example, if the cipher is only 10% decoded, that 60% that won't have that much of an effect. But if the cipher is like, let's say 90%, then of course the change will be brutal for the survivors. So this can save matches. This trait is more of a late game one if you use trump card in your persona tree, so you change your traits mid game. Then I would recommend this because it can save matches. The only reason I don't use it is because, as some of you know already, I don't really use trump card. I only use detention from the final talents, and I use teleport. As you can see, it's selected already. So that's the trait I'm using. But if I would use the trump card strategy that many other JoJo users use, then I would consider using abnormal, especially when there are maybe more survivors, like let's say 2 or 3, trying to decode that one cipher and you're like near, but like you keep hitting them, but then the other 2 decode and then you hit the other one and the last one decodes and the other heals. This is when a normal can really just make a change and save that match for you. So I think we should also try this out, experiment with it a little in quick matches maybe. And if you find it that you like how it works, then I would recommend using it, especially, as I said, especially with this trump card strategy. Taking this as an only skill can be quite hard if you're sure in your chase. Like if some reason you think like you don't have any problems with chasing as a JoJo, then this can be a very useful trait for him, especially because he can further decrease the decoding with his photo word and then also with abnormal, so it will really make it hard for the survivors to decode at all. But as I said, if you're just a regular Joseph user who feels like indeed chasing is not really one of his best skills, then that's why I would recommend this only as a second choice of traits, not the first one. But really, it's your decision at the end of the day. Next one on the list is excitement. This is also kind of a simple trait. I think this is one of the most easiest to understand. Still, this can come very useful. This one I would say can be a first and the second, like a switched to trait too. Because if a team, like let's say what I use excitement on is like smaller maps, especially like Red Church, maybe Arms Factory, really depends on the team. Because if there are like more than 2 stunners, I would take this. But also depends on the kind of stunner. Like I wouldn't necessarily take excitement for an enchantress, if you know what I mean. Because I feel like enchantresses can't really, like, for them to time that 3 stack stun on you when you are carrying someone on a balloon, because that's the primary reason when you don't want to get stunned, when you're trying to chair someone. Like I feel like that's the most important part where you really don't want to be stunned, you just want to chair that person. It's even better if they just, stun after or like save than like before chairing, because I feel like that's the most essential part of being a hunter, to just chair survivors. And if they stun you while doing that and stop you from doing that, that's the worst feeling ever. Like that gets me so annoyed. It's like literally makes hunter names feel helpless. So that's when I would use excitement, especially when to chair. It's like I said, just like, mostly. But of course you can use this kiting when maybe you got pilot stun and you just want to get that terror shock when they roll back. So this can be used many ways, but I feel like the primarily use or like the most useful use of excitement is when chairing and you stop like a forward, let's say, from stunning you. This is very useful and getting more and more useful as NetEase keeps adding these stunner characters. So really, I think this can be a useful thing to carry, even if you never used it before or don't use it that often. I think you should think about it, just like try it out and see how much it helps you, because I feel like there are really many situations that this can come in handy. Of course, again, this is also hard, especially for Joseph mains. It's very hard to choose traits, because we kind of have to rely on something to help our downing phase. Because of course you can down people with photo word, but then that's it. Like if they get out of the chair and you don't manage to hit them right after they get out, then you have to chase. And if they are like a decent survivor, like they're not those ones who just like drop the pallet in front of them every time, not just as an accident, and then they just vault in front of you or something. So if they are like, they know at least a bit how to kite, then Joseph is the easiest to kite. Like he only has his hitbox kind of, but that doesn't always work. Like as I mentioned in the previous video, they all, like a lot of times, it just goes through the survivor without doing any damage. So that's why it's hard for us to choose any traits beside like Blink. I think most Joseph mains use Blink. And there is the other group of people who use my kind of strategy, who use and rely on teleport. But the other ones I feel like are not really primarily choices. And I understand, because it is hard to just drop that Blink if you rely on that to chase or to chair. And it's really hard to just experiment even. But I feel like if you think you're having difficulties with winning with using Blink, then I would say just try to change it up a bit. So that's why it can be like very hard decision, even when you see like 3 stunners, and like especially on like bigger maps maybe, or like even smaller, really depends on the team. To just like, yeah, let's take excitement, then you know like it will be super hard to down the survivor, even not speaking of cheering. That's why you kind of have to gamble with this traits with Jojo, because he really just needs something to help him chase, but he also needs something against the stunners. So it's really a tough decision, but I would say just experimenting quick match. That will cost you nothing really, like you won't lose the rank points, and it will give you kind of the same feel of a normal match. So I think you can just experiment, find what you like best. Maybe if you haven't used trump card before, you could give that a try and try taking 2 traits. So yeah, just change it up a bit if you're having difficulties, and try to find what works for you really. Next one is Patroller, which maybe you wouldn't think, but it can be actually a great trait to bring with Jojo. I personally don't think I have like seriously tried this. Like maybe when I started out I took it once when I unlocked it, like that was all, I think. But this actually helps with chasing a lot, and of course its cooldown is well, almost half of Blink. So this can be, and maybe like it guarantees a hit usually. Of course not always, because they can, if they are in a good area with a lot of pallets and windows, they can kite out a patroller, but it's very rare that they do that, and you can even like stop saves before half with this. So I think if your controls are good, of course this is also reliant on kind of ping, because sometimes you just like circle around and it's kind of hard to get used to controlling the patroller itself when you use the trait and you have to control that little dog or animal or whatever. So if you like maybe train in custom matches with that, just the controls of patroller, you can just try and robot survivors. It doesn't really matter. The point is just for you to get used to the feel of using a patroller efficiently, because there is a time limit to how long you can control it. So like if you can't manage to capture a survivor with the patroller after like, I don't know, a few seconds, I think it's like written down somewhere in this description. So if you don't manage to capture them in that given time window, then the patroller will just disappear and your skill will go back on cooldown. So it requires a little getting used to, but just as Blink. If you think about it, maybe you don't remember if you've been using Blink for a long time now, but it takes a little practice, it takes a little getting used to, just as Patroller. So I would say if you think Blink's cooldown is what's stopping you from getting those wins, because you just need those downs faster, then maybe you should try Patroller. Of course it doesn't work on the same way, it won't like get you through objects, but it usually guarantees a hit, because the survivor will be restrained in every 5 seconds if I read correctly, so they won't be able to move, and if they maybe like can't get to that pallet, or like even with Jojo's faster pallet breaking, you can maybe like hit them, even if they manage to drop that pallet. So I would say you should give this a try if you think it could help you down survivors, if that's you could imagine this as part of your strategy. And I think this isn't a bad choice at all for Jojo. So this can help you down, this can help with his chase if you have a solid persona build done, and maybe the only thing you need some help with is chasing or downing survivors. Even like imagine they just saved someone from chair, you use the patroller to just follow up with them, and like that makes it so much easier to down them afterwards. If you guys are interested, I might try this out in a match myself and post the video about it. If you're interested, really just leave a comment if you are, and then we can see how well it really actually works. Next one is of course my favorite skill to use with Jojo, Teleport. I think it's very useful for him. Obviously doesn't have chase, which is kind of the bad side of this, but as Jojo doesn't really have map control at all, like many other hunters, this can help very much, especially when he has the second skill unlocked. As you all know, second skill allows you to just teleport back, essentially. So you just teleport somewhere and then tap that skill button, maybe like hold it for a while so it surely teleports you back, and you're back at the other half of the map. So I think teleport paired with Jojo's second skill can be a really nice thing to have. But for other people who rely on Blink maybe, then teleport can be also a very great late game trait if you use Trump card once again, because of course you can teleport between the two gates, teleport to the chair and the gate depending on like how you have the end game set up. So I feel like you guys all know why I'm using teleport already. I told that in numerous videos. I explained my strategy in a lot of videos also. So if you've been following with my channel, you know what's the deal with this. I don't think it's for everyone, I have to say. Like, you don't have to force this. If this strategy I'm using, it's not really your style, if you feel like it just doesn't work with you personally, then don't use it. I don't want to force you using it. I'm not saying it's any better than the regular strategy that you take instantly a picture. I just said, as in a lot of other videos, why it's easier for me, maybe for people who don't have the best ping, maybe for people who don't have time and hours to just keep studying all the spawn points, because this way you just walk around, see a survivor, take a picture, and hit them there, right there and then. Of course, you kind of have to have an idea of where they spawn, but you don't actually have to just go blindly, as if you were to take a picture instantly. You can just kind of have to go blindly. You don't know if they change places where they hide. It's easier, in my opinion, with teleport. But yeah, just decide for yourself. If you need a little convincing, you can find my video about my strategy. I explained it in pretty much detail if you are interested, but yeah. Okay, second to last is Peepers. I believe everyone already used this because it seems just so very useful when you read the description, like seeing an area where the survivors are. Like, this can be at a cipher, at a gate, at a chair, like basically anywhere, and you know where they are, like see what they're doing, and you have to remove it, which takes time for them to do, which of course stops them from decoding, healing, and it even slows their interaction speed. So I used this for a while when I started out back then. Well, I found it a pretty useful trait, but as I mentioned before in this video, Jojo really needs help with his chase, and Peeper is not going to do that for you. This trait is more for, I feel like it will be more useful for characters like Reaper and Antonio maybe, because they have skills that can go through walls. So you can, like, you see, or like maybe X-Boy too. So you see the person you're trying to hit, and you don't even have to like walk there, you just see them and like send that Foggy Blade or that little Fire Survivor or that note, and like you can hit them through walls. That's why it's not the best for Jojo. Of course, it can be used, it can be very beneficial to you, especially if you're like maybe not into camping. If that's how your strategy is, you just like put a Peeper down next to the chair, go for the next victim, and like you know when they get to the chair, which direction they go into. So it can be helpful, but yeah, it's really a rare trait to be used for him. If you feel like your strategy would allow, you can maybe try it, or if you have problems, even like this is a good starter trait, I feel like. Because if you can't really find mirrors, like in Photo World, it works, like Peeper works in Photo World too. So if you like know they are nearby, like if you know just they spawned around here, you can just drop a Peeper, and even if they're hiding behind something, it will show you the location. So if that's something you have trouble with, then I would recommend just trying it out. Maybe just check in custom matches, if it if you like how it works. But it can be a good trait for beginners who, when like survivors don't kite that good yet, so you actually have a chance of downing them just by using your regular hit normally without mind games and such. But you only have problems maybe with finding them. If you find they always hide from you, and it's like it takes a lot of time for you to find them, I would recommend maybe trying Peeper out. It can help even memorizing spawn points, because of course, you will get used to, if you use it for a while, you will get used to where you see the survivor actually. So like if you, let's say, spawn in front of a gate, you start going around the map and you drop peepers on the way, you will see when you usually find that survivor, and then that will like memorize in your brain that that's where they spawn, and then you will get to the point where you don't even have to use peeper anymore. So, let's straight we arrive to his blink with the longest cooldown ever, which I of course already said that I feel like is unfair. Maybe not that much of a problem, or like not, the time itself is not much of a problem for JoJo mains, as our matches are usually around 10 minutes. So you can use Blink a couple times at least, but I noticed like some matches with other hunters can like, with this Cypher Rush, can like take only 4 minutes, like 4 to 6 minutes. Most of my matches with other hunters who are like not in any way can't really stop decoding or don't carry abnormal. So that's why I feel like it's kind of unfair for that long of a cooldown. Like I don't really understand why we have to wait that much to do this when it's basically just guarantees, usually guarantees, like not even all the time. So it can guarantee one hit. Like it's not even you just down them. Like no, this can give you one hit, and sometimes you need 2 blinks to down someone. So that's why I feel like they should just change that cooldown a little, because it is a useful trait, but the timing, like the cooldown, is not really fair, especially with survivors' abilities. This timing, because their skills have like 3 or maximum 10-second cooldowns. Even in the persona trees, like that dash that I've been talking about recently, like the flywheel effect, even that has a less amount of cooldown than blink, which is basically the same thing. So I don't really understand why they had to make that cooldown so long. But anyways, this is another very popular trait for JoJo. As I mentioned before, it really helps with his chase, especially if you maybe manage to injure someone in photo word, so they're already like a one hit for you. You can just follow with the blink. If you're like already good at it, you can just blink through the wall, blink to that pallet, and you will have them downed. Of course, this has a dark side, or like a bad side too. Because yeah, let's say you down this wonderful kiter with your lucky blink, or like your skilled blink. Now you have 150 seconds to have blink up again, and let's say, okay, there are no stunners, so you just chair that kiter in peace. You wait next to the chair as a normal Joseph mains would, and then comes the rescuer. The rescuer, like, you manage to hit them, because that's how it usually goes. JoJo doesn't really have anything against saving. Maybe like try for Terror Shock, but even then it's usually just maybe a hit. So let's say it goes normally, you get a hit off of the rescuer, and then now you have your originally chaired kiter, now they're free to go. So your blink is still on cooldown, maybe like let's say 100 seconds are left, and the ciphers are popping because the other 2 survivors can freely decode in this time. So you're chasing this character. If they are in a lucky position, like a lucky location, then they can kite you for like at least until the blink's cooldown is off. So really, this can be very tricky, because yes, it can guarantee you a down, even if they are a very good kiter. But then again, like 150 seconds won't really help downing them again, especially if they save before half, if everything goes as survivor teams usually just, normally. That's why it's really like a double-edged sword, because you carry a trait that's very useful, but then its cooldown makes it very risky to take, because if your blink is on cooldown, you essentially have nothing to work with other than your persona, of course. But if they are in a lucky location with like many pallets and windows and stuff like that, then you have no chance of capturing them without blink. So this is why it can be a pain to carry this. Of course, it's a very useful trait, and most hunter mains swear on it by saying it's the best. I don't necessarily think it is the best, because it's not consistent, like as I said before. Of course, if you are satisfied with using this, if you are used to using it, and like you feel like it really is an essential part to you being successful in this game, then of course don't change it. I don't mean to make you guys change traits that you are comfortable with, but I feel like you could try, maybe if you rely on Blink usually, you could give it a try to Patroller. It has like basically half of the cooldown. It will give you much more room to stop kiters from kiting, or even just, you know, the rescues from happening before half. It's a very useful trait. Both of them are, but maybe Patroller, if you have trouble with Blink, if you like usually notice yourself saying like, oh hell, Blink is still in cooldown and I can't capture this person still, then I would recommend just trying Patroller. Just give it a try in quick match. You won't lose anything with that, really. So yeah, I think we concluded this. This one, just as the persona tree, again, comes down to what you guys prefer to use, what your ping is like, because maybe for someone who has like green ping all the time and like little to no lags, then maybe you will choose a completely different trait and persona than most people. Or if you play like me with like usually around 200 ping, sometimes lags and such, then that's why like Blink is also kind of reliant on having a good connection, because of course the survivor, if the survivor has a better ping than you, then maybe they are like, you know, further in the game or like further in on the map than you see them at. That's why the sword goes through them. So that's why you should choose a trait not based on what pro players recommend, but something that works with your playstyle and your circumstances. So don't try to be as swift and as punctual as like a green pink player, like a pro green pink player, maybe on like the Asia server, like Joseph is really a popular character still, and their like rank points are over 10,000 in the top, I don't know, 50 even. So yeah, it's just don't try to be something that you can't be, because it will only make you sadder and sadder. Just find what works for you with your own ping. If it's abnormal, let's say you use abnormal, just do it. Like whatever works for you, really. Like you can use any trait, really, as long as it works for you and your ping and your circumstances. So just don't really worry about this. Don't really worry about fitting in with the other mains of the character. So yeah, that's what I always say. Just try to experiment as long as you find the one that works for you best. Alright, I think this concludes our 5th class in the JoJo Academy. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. This one is, I think, will be the longest, because now that I'm recording it's near 30 minutes long, which is kind of a lot, but I'll try to shorten it as much as I can. And I hope this explanation helped you, or like inspired you to try out some new traits and think of some new strategies. Tell me in the comments how it's going, what trait you use maybe, or like if you have something, cool little strategy you would like to share with other JoJo mains. Thank you guys for being with me on this little academy class. Hope we meet in the next one. Bye bye!